Police Intelligence, Ms. Suzette Martin, Senior Superintendent Criminal Investigations Department, Mr. Rishi Singh, and Legal Officer Special Investigations Unit, Mr. Zahir Ali. My name is Keith Scotland, and I am the chairman of this committee. To my immediate left is the secretary of this committee, Mr. Brian Caesar, Senior Parliamentary Research Specialist, Mrs. Kimberly Mitchell, Parliamentary Research Specialist, Mr. Chad Salandi, and Legal Officer, Mr. Roger Hector. I will now invite members of this committee, beginning with the Vice Chairman, to introduce themselves to the public, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioner and team. Paul Richards, Vice Chair.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ayana Webster Roy, member.
Good afternoon. I am Randall Mitchell, member.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. Richie Sky, member.
Good afternoon. All. Rudal Monilal, member.
Good afternoon, all. Jayanti Ramlial, member.
Thank you very much, members, for this introduction. This session is a single evidence session into the objectives of the Violent Crime Reduction Plan of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and other related initiatives. The main purpose of this inquiry is to assess the broad strategic objectives and the approach and policy decisions of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service with specific reference to violent crime, to analyze the use of crime data and statistics to inform the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service's decisions on policing and policy development, to scrutinize the review mechanisms for adjustments made to the targets of the 2023 Violent Reduction Crime Plan, and to understand the actionable timelines of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service short, medium, and long-term strategies of its updated Violent Crime Reduction Plan, and to learn of any other specific measures to be engaged by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service within the period. At this time, I would want to personally thank the members of this committee who have taken time from the interregnum of the Parliament in both houses to come to undertake the work of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Committee members, we know that we are on vacation, and I thank you all for coming out this afternoon, and Mr. Caesar, you and your staff, it is to be commended. That being said, I will invite very brief opening remarks from the Commissioner of Police, not to exceed 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Chairman, members of the committee, good afternoon. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service welcomes this opportunity to share with the committee and the general public the extensive work that the police service has been doing on several fronts to address the incidents of crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Everyday officers of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service are confronted with the challenge of deterring, detecting, and prosecuting crime being perpetrated by an innovative and insistent criminal element. Every day, we rise to that challenge by proactively planning and efficiently operationalizing and updating strategies and initiatives designed to prevent the commission of offenses and apprehend those persons involved in criminal activity. The TTPS is very committed to its mandate. Our performance as an organization continues to improve. We have made reasonably good progress in our operations, and we remain very confident in our ability to develop and deploy effective strategies to combat violent crime. We are very clear about what is required, and we are determined to discharge the responsibilities and deliver the results that the public expect. Mr. Chair, I thank you.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Commissioner. May I then ask that the other members of your team now introduce themselves for us, please?
Pleasant good day, Mr. Chairman and other members of the committee. My name is Junior Benjamin, and I am the Deputy Commissioner of Police with responsibility for operations, and it's a privilege being here.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Natasha George, Deputy Commissioner of Police Administration.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Suzette Martin, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Intelligence and Investigations.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Rishi Singh, Senior Superintendent. Forgive me, my present ability mightn't be that good. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rishi Singh, Senior Superintendent, Criminal Investigations Department.
Good afternoon, Chair, and other distinguished members of this Joint Select Committee. My name is Zahir Ali. I'm a Corporal of Police and Legal Officer of the Special Investigations Unit with other jurisdiction for the Special Branch Counter-Trafficking Unit and other units within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you all here. We would want to keep the answers very succinct and very to the point. And I'd want to start on, Madam Commissioner, for the benefit of the listening and viewing audience, what are in the police services repertoire, what are the different categories of violent crimes?
When we speak violent crime, we speak of murders, shooting and woundings, sexual offenses, kidnappings, robberies.
And breaking and entries, etc.
Yes, sexual offenses. Yes.
And have you seen any arresting of or any decrease in the violent crimes since the last time you were here?
Mr. Chair, yes. I am pleased to report as of today we have a reduction in our violent crime. We have a 15% reduction in violent crime.
Percent reduction?
Reduction, yes.
All right. Member Munilal?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, Madam Commissioner and your team.
Good afternoon.
Madam Commissioner, just taking up on the point raised by the Chairman a few moments ago, could you give us, as part really of a preliminary analysis, what are the internal and external challenges that the TTPS face at this time that prevented somewhat the service from achieving its targets as outlined in the Violent Crime Reduction Plan? What are these challenges that would have impeded somewhat the targets that were set in 2023?
Mr. Chair, I would like to remind or advise the committee that for the most of 2023, the organization did not have a substantive leadership. As a matter of fact, the commissioner had at one point one deputy commissioner to assist her, and as a result of that, the commissioner and the deputy commissioner would have had to perform the role of commissioner and 3 deputy commissioners. So that would have had its challenges on the complete implementation of the violent crime reduction.
Are there, that being an internal challenge, significant challenge, are there any external factors as well that contributed towards the situation in 2023 where some, but not all, of the targets were not met?
Well, the only other external challenges, no. I cannot say we had any external challenges.
Okay. Madam Commissioner, just 2 or 3 smaller issues, but significant issues to raise with. There are some outstanding matters that we have raised before. I just wanted to get some sense of an update from you. Could you indicate whether or not the back pay payments to police officers have been completed? We had this ongoing concern that not all police officers have received what was due to them, so to speak. And that was also an administrative challenge of some kind.
Yes.
Could you give us an update on that matter?
Roughly, we have approximately 1,500 officers who have not received their back pay.
At this time?
At this time.
And do you have an expected time frame when the 1,500 officers would receive this payment?
Well, I want to believe within a 3-month period is a reasonable time that I can expect. Yes.
And before I hand over, because we are looking at the time as well, Madam Commissioner, a matter has been in the public domain as a burning issue, as you could well understand, over the last week or so. Could you confirm or not whether the TTPS is currently investigating the very, very serious concern of an attempted coup in this country involving a specialized law enforcement agency that itself is now under some investigation and audit?
Remember, in as much as it is a very burning issue, it is an issue that is at a very delicate stage, and it will not be prudent for me to comment at this time.
Munilal, do you want to move on to your other questions one
Yes.
time at the...
I wanted to return later, but I can go.
No, I think, and we finish on time.
Madam Commissioner, we wanted to ask whether the TTPS executive intended to address some of the challenges that you outlined before by way of a gap analysis, in the sense that, do we have a sense from the Office of the Commissioner and your team, the gap analysis to determine where the TTPS is now, currently, and where you would like to be over a particular time frame in terms of both operations, administration, and so forth? And I say that in the context of the findings that you outlined before, where you suggest that we are seeing some positive signs, but of course we are not in a comfortable place. So I'm asking about whether any gap analysis will be conducted, and that will include, of course, human resources, personnel, material resources. Is there a concern as well with the strength existing right now at police stations across the land, Trinidad and Tobago, whether we have a challenge right now with the strength of what is required at police stations vis-a-vis what obtains now? Is there some analysis done to look at the gap analysis involving resources? Not just cars, but it is one of the most symbolic, visible, and real resource that people see. Patrols and so on, and other areas of resources. And you can update us, of course, on the body camera, the body cams that we often raise here, the CCTV cameras and so on. I'm just asking that, but you are, of course, free to respond.
Thank you very much, Member. As the top executive, meaning the Commissioner and the 3 Deputy Commissioners, we are actually in the process of preparing that gap analysis. With regards to the resources, the human resource in particular, we are redeploying resources. We have looked at the structure, so we are looking to restructure the organization and to ensure we have the right persons in the right positions. With regards to resources, we are in the human resource, we are in the process of recruiting officers. So we are hoping that at the end of this year, we should have recruited 1,000, between 800 and 1,000 new officers.
Thank you. One more?
Yeah. Madam Commissioner, there was recently another very discouraging advisory from the United States administration on travel to Trinidad and Tobago, in which I think they even cited, to the dismay of many persons in the public domain, the issue of terrorism, kidnapping, violent crime, murder, and so on. Are there an additional focus or a much more deeper focus on some of these issues, given the very strong advice to citizens in the main from the United States of America about canceling trips and travel to Trinidad and Tobago? Is this something that you're also deeply concerned about, and whether or not any specific measures are contemplated to address this?
Yes, as an organization, we are concerned, and we continue to ensure that our strategies address all the violent crimes. But may I advise the committee that as of today, we had 2 reports of kidnapping for the year of 2024.
Sure.
Compared to 1 last year.
So compared to 1 last year?
100% increase.
Madam Commissioner, in answer to me and in answer to this committee, in 2023, on oral submissions made by you on the 31st of January 2024, relative to your violent crime reduction plan, you said that it was ambitious and to sort of encourage the officers to really work towards reaching the targets. What analyses have been completed to determine the successes and failures of the strategic or the strategies implemented for the plan?
Mr. Chair, we have been using our violent crime reduction plan, and we believe that this plan encompasses everything that is needed to manage the violent crime in Trinidad and Tobago. With regards to the targets, it would have been stretched targets, yes, but I just want to advise the House that, the committee, sorry, that our reduction plan and targets for 2024, they have been set by the Service Commission, and it is the intention of the organization to meet and surpass these targets.
Go ahead.
So in terms of changes and amendments, we now have a 10% reduction in homicides, whereas last year I had set a 20% reduction.
Thank you. Member Richards, would you start, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon once again, Commissioner, and congratulations on your report of a 15% reduction in violent crimes. Can you, would you be able to disaggregate for us a bit, because you were able to do so on the last occasion you visited, of the targets that the Service Commission you identified gave you, and your performance where those are concerned regarding murders, violent crimes, serious crimes, larceny, motor vehicles, road fatalities, detection of murders, and detection of violent crimes, which is what you would have given us last time as a metrics. Would you be able to provide that for us now?
I can provide data for 2024.
Thank you. That's what I'm asking for that. Thank you.
All right. So in terms of murders, we would have from,
And this is January to June or May?
January to July.
Okay, thank you.
So it would be, in terms of a reduction in murders, the target 10%, we have moved from 301 in 2023, unfortunately, to 299 in 2024. 2024, so we just have a 1% decrease. A 15% reduction in violent crime. We have a 15% decrease, moving from 2,736 in 2023 to 2,324 in 2024. 15% reduction in serious reported crimes. We are at a 17% reduction from 7,026 in 2023 to 5,803 in 2024. Our detection rate, a 20% detection rate for murders. We are at a 10% detection rate. And for 2024, we have been successful in detecting and charging 50 persons for 49 murders committed between 31 for 2024 and the others.
I said thank you. In terms of the violent crime reduction plan, which outlines 11 critical success factors, including focused implementation, executive leadership, effective management and supervision at all levels, holding officers responsible and accountable for delivering results, commitment and support of all police officers and staff throughout the TTPS, availability of financial resources, optimization of human, financial, and physical resources, specialized training of officers, effective collaboration with partner agencies, cooperation and support of public business organizations, NGOs, and FPOs, and explicit support of the Police Association. I'd just like to focus on a couple. How are these factors reading throughout the organization? And let me start with the issue of human resource and management and responsibility and accountability with officers are concerned. When your divisional heads visited us, I think it was in March, if I'm not mistaken, one of the three of the four heads mentioned an issue, and we asked them what were the biggest challenges facing the TTPS, and they all said, it was curious to me, the issue of culture and culture change. What did they mean by that? If you agree with that, specifically, what are the challenges with the culture change that you can identify with your leadership team in the organization that may be challenging in achieving your results?
Remember, culture change is a problem in every organization. And where the TTPS is concerned, now I'm not too sure what the commanders would have been referring to.
I get the impression that it was a discipline issue or an indiscipline issue in some instances. Does that make it clear? Is that something you can relate to?
Well, as a discipline issue, the organization is a discipline organization, but however, we do have a problem with maintaining discipline. And
what does that mean?
Well, we are supposed to be a disciplined organization, but if you would see almost ever so often, you have reports in the media of police ill discipline. So based on that, but what we intend to do as the executive, we are working on changing the culture of the organization, so that we can move from a culture of indiscipline to a culture of service excellence.
One of the other points I identified is the issue of training for officers. And recently, coming out of the last report that the Joint Select Committee on National Security delivered to the Parliament, we had an interface with the judiciary, and Master Christian Morris Allen indicated that one of these challenges the judiciary was facing was the fact that the evidence being presented from the police service was primarily eyewitness evidence, as opposed to the police service integrating criminologists, psychologists, more scientific evidence-based approaches. Is that something you agree with, and is that something the service is looking at in terms of one of the metrics is collaborating with partner agencies, and I'm presuming the judiciary is a partner agency or institution. Is that something you agree with? And if so, what is the service doing about it to increase prosecutions, which lie, if you look at an 8-year period, an average of 36% of reported crimes lead to a prosecution, and of this 36%, and this is Master Christian Morris Allen indicating this, of the 36% that lead to prosecution, only 5.7% leads to convictions.
So, member, while I will start in terms of evidence, because the matters are won or lost based on evidence, the organization is focusing on using the technology in terms of DNA, ballistic testing, CCTV, fingerprint, and our e-ticketing devices. We have also focused on providing training to build the capacity, the capabilities, and the competence of officers, particularly in area of prosecuting and in the area of file preparation. In terms of further training, I would like to, at this time, if I may,
please,
ask Mr. Singh.
Thank you.
Member Richards, you made very specific reference to the comments of Master Allen in your question. I would say that I am unsure that those are enough to really give me the entire context of her discussion. But I will say that you would have reflected upon the issue of evidence primarily being that of eyewitnesses, and you spoke to the issue of other experts like criminologists and so on being integrated into the prosecution process. We understand as an organization our burdens of proof. We understand the limitations of expert evidence. But I will say that we do not strictly rely on the eyewitness evidence. As Commissioner would have pointed out, we have had significant progress in using both scientific and technological issues to support the prosecution process. The reasons why matters would have moved from 36% in terms of persons being charged to 5% in terms of conviction, any number of possibilities can account for that. Not only deficiencies in police intervention. So if you want to have some elaboration on that, certainly I'd have to get a little more context.
Not a problem, understood. Final question in this round. One of the other critical success factors identified is number 5, Roman 5, commitment and support of all officers, all police officers and staff throughout the TTPS, which I guess speaks to motivation and morale in an HR context. Member Moninal asked a question earlier on about the outstanding back pay and the potential impact on that on officers. I got some information which may be erroneous, so I can confirm or refute. Is there an issue? Has the CID been disbanded or reorganized?
Mr. Singh, the CID Senior Superintendent, will address that.
Thank you.
No, sir. The CID is not disbanded as evidenced by my responsibility. So the short answer is no.
Thank God. Is there any other factor that may be affecting performance of officers and support of officers in achieving the targets? And that's my final question this round. Thank you.
Yes, sir. There are several things that affect the performance of officers. Primarily, as you would have alluded to, issues of motivation, issues of resources, issues of citizen cooperation, public trust and confidence. And when you examine the violent reduction plan, you'd see that there are areas where you would see evidence of that, those elements being very conscious in the crafters of the plan. And so being conscious of this, we are doing research and planning to network to succumb these challenges.
Madam Commissioner, I want to address this, and I want a brief, but I want a pointed answer from your Deputy Commissioner Operations, your Deputy Commissioner Intelligence, and your Superintendent CID. As part of the mandate of this inquiry, it is to look to see how the use of crime data and statistics informed the decisions of the police service as it relates to policing and policy development. We understand the data is there, and we get the data sometimes from the newspaper, from disturbing videos that we get, very disturbing video from Tobago this morning. In terms of operations, what is the police doing to be seen more robustly present in areas where the data says we need to be present in those areas? And relative to intelligence, having gathered the intelligence, because sometimes intelligence may be stealth. So we don't want you to go into details, but what is the police doing to infiltrate so that we can feel safer as a country? And those advisories that come out that are very, well, are not at all complimentary, we'll get them off the radar. Tell us.
Mr. Chair, thank you for that question.
And a short answer, but
Sure.
to the point.
Yes, sir. What we are doing presently is that, again, we are looking at the divisions where we are seeing that increase in crime, especially where we're seeing the murders, and we have come together with anti-strategies or anti-corruption strategies where we want to go into those areas. And what we're doing is you're going to see a high visibility of police officers there. We are looking at not just that, but we are looking at the scientific means where it's going to be not just police officers going at any time, but based on the hotspot, hot time, hot products, so that we are going with a target focus. And as we are going out there, what we're hoping and we are seeing is that we're going to be going there with also with that aim of meeting with the people, because I believe there's a difference between crime and the fear of crime. If we can really increase that level of community service, I believe that we can deal with the fear of crime and also build that trust with it. And that is what we are adding to what we are doing.
Madam Martin.
Yes, sir.
The intelligence and how we're using.
So we took an immediate action to this crime surge, and we would not tolerate any more violence. Enough is enough. We have our divisional ComStat, and at the ComStat, we now hold our ACPs accountable for the area. Greater accountability is set on them. Additionally, we are dismantling gangs and gang-related activities, which I think is one of the major issues in the crime in Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to tell the listening public that the commitment to ensuring community safety is of paramount importance for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And we are using focus, we are using strategic and tactical operations to lead the investigations. We have since disrupted and charged gang members. And we are now continuing. We have a lot of initiatives in place, which you would see in the near future. And we can manage Trinidad and Tobago, and we will ensure safety for all.
That's Very encouraging. Member Lakshmi Diyal.
Thank you, Chair. Just jumping off from two things that my colleagues would have raised, and then I'll get into the meat of my question. When we speak about the motivation of officers, on the last occasion when you were here, there was the issue of promotions being raised. And I think it was Mr. Samaru who appeared on the last occasion alongside you, Commissioner, and he indicated that that matter was trying to be resolved. We've since learned that 115 officers have initiated legal action with respect to promotions. That in of itself speaks to, a certain level of dissatisfaction, and perhaps is a matter that can really impact upon motivation within the police service. Have you taken any steps to ensure, or to perhaps try firstly to resolve this matter, this particular matter involving so many officers, one, and two, to ensure that these types of scenarios do not continue to rear its head and become sort of disruptive and cause an issue and contribute to the demotivation of your officers within the service?
Member, you would recall on my last appearance, I did indicate that the whole process of that promotion was in fact to act as a motivator to the officers, because more than 10 years would have passed with officers not being promoted. However, we did have an unfortunate situation, which I did in fact try to remedy, and that ended up in court. It's now been at the court. It is not now prudent for me to make any additional comments on it.
But you recognize that it would be necessary to ensure that you don't have situations like that arising in the future, because the impact on your officers.
So we have been working diligently, and we will ensure that that does not happen in the future.
Another point raised with respect to what Member Richard spoke about, and the use of different types of evidence apart from the reliance on eyewitnesses. We also had before us the Director of Public Prosecutions, who commented publicly that when he began working within that in the criminal justice system, he was actually seeing more reliance on things like fingerprint evidence. He singled out fingerprint evidence, and that now he was seeing fewer files coming before him for advice with reliance on the type of scientific evidence that could help to secure convictions. By any stretch of the imagination, regardless of context, a 5% conviction rate is really not a target that we could be proud of. So is it that is it necessary? Do you think that you have achieved sufficient investment in terms of being able to really harness the power of scientific types of evidence? Do you have enough reliance? Do you have enough training? Where do you, I think somebody used the term gap analysis. Have you conducted a gap analysis in terms of your evidence collection that could help raise your detection and ultimately your conviction rate? Given that I think all parties agree there's so many weaknesses in the reliance on eyewitness testimony in order to secure conviction.
We have been focusing on building the capacity and the competence of officers. So we are focused on our homicide investigations training, our crime scene investigators, with the intention of having better evidence gathering procedures. And that, we hope, will assist in increasing the prosecution.
Do you have specific targets of where you hope to be in terms of the number of CSIs, in terms of your capacity and the use of your technology in terms of retrieval of CCTV and so on? Do you have specific targets relative to that?
In terms of CCTV, we, other than the homicide investigators, we are focusing on training officers in each division to assist with the retrieval of CCTV footage.
All right, let me ask you about the implementation of the violent crime reduction plan. When the plan was shared with us, you made mention that you would have an implementation schedule for a number of initiatives. You pinpointed about 13 initiatives. This is under paragraphs 4 of the interventions in your plan. And you said at paragraph 5 that you would come up with an implementation schedule, and it would be based on certain things. Have you in fact developed the schedule, and has it been, because I know that the plan itself might have undergone some reformation and revision, have you updated that implementation schedule, and how are you managing your resources with respect to being on the ground, continuing work, trying to manage the day-to-day allocation of resources in the service, as well as implementing this implementation schedule that you say you were going to develop?
Well, we were a bit challenged with the implementation schedule, and what has happened over the last year. We would have had changes with the human resource, changes in commanders, persons retiring. So that would have set us back a bit. But we are right now, we are in the process of redesigning the schedule.
When do you anticipate the new schedule would be available based on, I assume, the revised violent reduction plan? When do you think that you would complete formulating that schedule for implementation?
That will be done within the month.
Okay.
And when you say within the month of July?
Within the month of July, yes.
So we should have it by August?
Yes, by August.
Thank you.
Yes, by August.
All right. I want to ask about response times with respect to crime. There are two things that stood out to me, two things that I recall when we spoke about these things and the response times for violent crimes. It's in the media, and one of them particularly today with respect to the rise in criminal activity in Tobago. I know my colleague might ask more questions about this, but I read some time ago at one of your community engagement meetings, a resident raising specifically, and that is just in March of this year, that police response time was very poor in the island of Tobago. He singled out, for example, the forwarding of calls being made to 999 in Tobago to the Port of Spain headquarters and so on. It's a new newspaper, well publicized. I could locate it if necessary. But I want to know about the real-time communication tools that officers are using response times. Another community that singled out what they consider to be very poor response time and response by the police, and that they have been being targeted by criminals, is the Carson Field area. And I know that's after the media attention and so on came up, the police said that they were upping their patrols. But again, we continuously see week after week reports up to, I think today, someone being shot and another person being murdered in that community, and that they are being targeted. So in terms of community engagement and your efforts to improve response times, not just in these two communities, I'm just singling them out because they've been raised recently in the media, but how are you working on improving your response time, and what additional resources do you think you can utilize to improve your response time? Because that's one of the most visible things that the public sees when it is that they are exposed to crime or they are victims of crime or they see crime taking place in a community. The first thing people look at is how quickly the police can arrive. So have you developed any particular strategies? What additional resources do you need?
Chair, through you, might I
Yes, go right ahead. I want to move on.
Invite
after.
DCP Benjamin to respond.
Go ahead.
Thank you kindly. In terms of response time, the average response time right now might be about 15 minutes on an average, and that is coming out from the ERP, all right, and the E999. However, we have done as a 10 minutes as what we really want in terms of our actual time. One of the things that we have done is constantly review what are the challenges that they are facing and how we can address it. What we are doing now is that, coming very soon, is that we are looking at what we call like the geofencing mechanism, where we have really embarked on looking at the data for about the last, from 2018 until now, and we have put that into an AI format where at least in the areas where we will put high concentration, we would have at least 55 areas where we will concentrate on, and in that 55 areas, nearly half of our crimes that has happened throughout that period would have a vehicle that can respond in quick time. There is a system and a strategy that we are using, and we are also now even having the officers that are going out to be, they would have the GPS that we'll be able to monitor so that to avoid any ghost patrols or anything of that sort. So we are putting things in place, and at this time, when we look at our patrols, we are seeing an increase in our patrols from nearly 80,300 and probably just over, 80,300 to about, 83,700 and something patrols at this time. So we're increasing in patrols, but we want to ensure that those patrols are hitting those areas where we can see some results. And what we need right now is that as we continue, we are going to ensure that with the things that are coming, that we would be able to have enough vehicles to deal with these situations.
Thank you. Member Webster Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to everyone again. Madam Commissioner and team, I'm a Tobagonian, I'm elected representative in Tobago, and we are seeing an unprecedented rise in gun violence on my little island of Tobago that was once known to be clean, green, safe, and serene, right? And we can't say that is concentrating on one community or one part of the island. We had reports coming out of Speyside, Mount St. George, Blackrock, Mount Pleasant, Bethel, and it's, you could say, across the entire island. Based on your violent crime reduction plan, and I don't know of any revisions made to the plan that would be specific to Tobago, what can you say to the people of Tobago now to give us a sense of assurance that decisive action is being taken and that gun violence, reducing gun violence in Tobago is being given the right attention in terms of intelligence, in terms of operations, in terms of administration, in terms of CID?
Member, I want to assure the Tobago public that our focus is on Tobago as much as it is on Trinidad. Over the last 2 months, I would have deployed additional manpower to Tobago because we would have seen the rise of the crime. So we have officers from the GB and the IATF now functioning in Tobago. And that is a permanent initiative. As of this morning, another team of officers from the Interagency Task Force has left to provide training for the frontline officers of Tobago. So that is to ensure that they are capable and competent in doing basic road checks, teaching them to build their confidence to confront perceived offenders. So we have been focusing on Tobago, and we will continue to focus. As a matter of fact, we will be meeting with the administration in Tobago.
Madam Commissioner, in developing your crime reduction plan, what is the process? Is it solely developed by the TTPS and your internal stakeholders? Are there any consultations with persons on the outside, maybe community organizations? Is the Trinidad, is the Police Service Commission a part of the process? Can you just tell the public could understand what goes into developing this plan? And is there any room for the public to be involved in informing what is in the plan?
Thank you, Member. I would like to advise the Chair, whereas this is a violent crime reduction plan, the organization also has its strategic plan, which covers the 3-year period and the annual operating plan. For the development of these plans, we do have the intervention and the input of our stakeholders, including the Service Commission.
Go ahead, madam. One more? No, you.
And I don't know if it might be better suited to CID or intelligence, but examining trends, would the police service would have been able to predict this uptick in gun violence in Tobago?
When you look at the trends, to a point, but I would like to, may I invite Ms. Martin as intelligence to address the.
Member Westeroy, yes, we checked, and we have intelligence. We are working behind the scenes on the gun violence, not only in Tobago, but Trinidad and Tobago. Our borders are porous. There are a lot of issues that it's not just Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, but we need shared responsibility. It's a national issue. And we have community engagements. We have our corporate communication who sensitize the public on the crime trends. And they could come to us at any time and we would respond. And we would be responding to Tobago very soon.
Member Mitchell?
Just to piggyback on that, are you able to say what is the reason for the uptick in crime in Tobago?
I would ask for Corporal Ali, the legal officer, to assist me with this answer, please.
Through the chair, thank you, member, for the question. I want to respond to this question by something that Member Paul Richards would have indicated in a previous committee meeting, where he indicated that in Trinidad and Tobago, there are a few major criminal gangs that have sleeper cells in various parts of Trinidad and Tobago. And I think one of the reasons why I've identified that, it's significant in terms of what we are seeing from an intelligence context in Tobago, where the gangs that have established themselves in Trinidad and Tobago are continuing to seek other opportunities, whether it be in the context of opportunities for lucrative drug blocks or easy avenue for trafficking dangerous drug, trafficking humans. So based on that intelligence, we are seeing that them, and I want to use again, member, permit me, where that migration to Tobago is really looking to take charge of territory that can be lucrative to the gangs. So in response, and permit me, Chair, if I may respond to that, what we have and our approach is, and to extend Trinidad and Tobago as well, having joined this executive in the last couple of months and working closely with the executive, I recognize that the anti-gang legislation, the Administration of Justice Indictable Proceedings Act, and more importantly, the miscellaneous provisions law enforcement, which speaks to the jail and prohibited articles, my analysis, we may not have explored that legislation to the depth that we should have been exploring those legislation. So I wish to report through the Commissioner and through the Chair that over the last couple of months, you all would have seen actions taken against the various gangs in Trinidad. And I want to assure you all that it's also extending to Tobago with reference to a deep enforcement of the anti-gang legislation and the Administration of Justice Act. Just one final point, just to drive that point in. We have used the anti-gang legislation to the extent where we are using the detention powers. So normally we will have common law powers for arrest and detention. We are now exploring the legislation where we are using the statutory powers to ensure that the police is given sufficient justifiable time with judicial intervention to ensure that we gather the evidence that we require. And last but not least, I just wish to remind kindly the committee that, again, looking at our courts of Trinidad and Tobago, and may I just identify Mr. Nolan Barrow and the Court of Appeal, they were quite calculated when they spoke about ensuring that there is a careful compilation of the evidence to ensure there's a real prospect of conviction. Because just listening to one of the members, I think Member Lakshmi Diyal quite rightly identified that there's concerns in terms of, and even Member Paul Richards, even identifying that there may be an issue in relation to convictions. So we have to strike a balance, but I want to assure the Chair and the people of Trinidad and Tobago that we are exploring all legislation to ensure that we have control over gang and gang-related activities in Trinidad and Tobago, and more so, this being the summertime where persons will be revisiting Tobago.
Yeah, we've seen some evidence of that, and it is indeed encouraging. Madam Commissioner, let me just return to this violent crime reduction plan. So as I understand it, the Service Commission provided some targets, and the question is, in terms of your global targets, what method did you use to look at the divisions and to apply those targets division by division? And was that process done in consultation with the divisional commanders?
Developing the
internal targets,
the
division
internal
by
targets, division, actually, it was not really done division by division. But each division is expected to achieve the targets. Crime is not the same in each division. So it will be that in some divisions it might be easier to meet the targets than in others.
Yeah, so the question is, I mean, looking at, and when the divisional commanders came before us, they indicated that, you know, division by division, there are certain divisions, there's very high crime, some divisions low crime, and there are differences in the crimes committed division by division. So the question is was there any specific methodology in looking at all of these different, and the word culture was used as well, looking at different divisions and applying internal targets with respect to, of course, the circumstances that are present in each division?
Yes, that would have been taken into consideration, but we also take into consideration what is required or for the general management.
Yeah. Yeah, the last thing in this round that I would ask, Madam Commissioner, you know, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And when there is an uptick in crime, I mean, the first thing you hear in the parliament is they call for the head of the prime minister. And then they call for the head of the Minister of National Security. And in the public, of course, they call the name Ulla Harewood Christopher. What have you done by way of policy in giving the divisional commanders, by way of ensuring that they are accountable, to go before the public and speak to the public about crime and their efforts to suppress crime within their divisions? Because it just appears as though, and I speak about it in our sphere in politics, always call for the minister's head when something goes wrong, but there is an entire organization with persons who hold positions who ought to have some responsibility and accountability. And I mean, everybody would go to you and your deputy commissioners. I'm happy that you have a full complement now. But what are you doing to hold these divisional commanders? Let the public know who they are and hold them accountable for speaking about crime and criminal behavior within their divisions.
Thank you, Member. One major change that I would have made policy-wise the program Beyond the Tape. So Beyond the Tape now, you would have divisional commanders appearing and giving an account for their division. Additionally, the assistant commissioners are responsible for ensuring and holding the divisional commanders accountable. Where we have criminal or really tragic incidents in particular, you would have the divisional commanders. They are the ones who are required to apprise the public of what is happening and to give account for the incidents.
Saw Miss Martin there when there was that kidnapping and very competently giving an account to the nation immediately, as things progressed. I don't recall seeing the divisional commander, but perhaps the divisional commander was there and I didn't see it. But thank you for your answer.
Member Sukai.
Thank you, Chair, and once more, welcome, Commissioner. Commissioner, in January 31st, 2024, you indicated that we are striving to have an agile organization where we are ensuring the use of technology, right? Recently, in the papers today, actually, I saw you roll out these little TTPS feedback blue boxes. You could just give a little run on how that works and what you expect to gather from that?
We would have launched our customer service initiative. And that's the major purpose of that now, is to make it easier for the public to give an account of their treatment by the police. And important in that initiative, there's a remedial aspect of it, so that if there are a number of adverse reports for any particular station, then the Secretariat will put the remedial plan into action.
So, thanks for that. I just want to find out, this is all paper-based, right?
No, it isn't. There is actually a Q code on the box that persons who are tech savvy will just scan the code and put their information. But the paper basis, because we still have persons who are not technically inclined.
Right. Well, thanks for explaining, because from the picture, you didn't see any QR code on the box. However, if you look at the Police Complaints Authority, on their app, they also provide for people to give feedback on the on the police service. So that's why I'm asking, is there then a duplication of what's going on? Because I don't know if you're familiar with the Police Commission Act. So the Police Commission Authority has an app where they actually take these feedbacks. And that's why I wanted to find out from you. And also, what is the process now with the app, the TTPS app that you once had? Is it going to become operationalized eventually?
So let me get you clear. You said the Police Commission Authority. Or Complaints Authority. So the Complaints Authority? PCA? Okay. Well, the PCA would be gathering their information for whatever purpose they are gathering. But the police, we are gathering our information to improve our delivery of service to the citizens.
So there's the same thing as, the guard watching himself or herself. So as and I understand that you're gathering your piece of information. I just wanted to know if there's any correlation on the data that is gathered by the Police Complaints Authority. Why I'm saying this, if you look at how the Police Complaints Authority app is set up, they also go by division, and they allow you then to enter whatever complaints they may have, or maybe suggestions or even compliments in that way. And that's why I want to know if there's any sort of correlation that you work with them in terms of improving your customer service. Because my question comes down to technology. and how you're incorporating technology going forward. And is there, and again, the second part of that, would your app be functional soon, and what is the situation with that?
The app is already functional.
App?
The app is already functional.
The TTPS app?
Yes, and when you scan the...
Oh, no. That's when you scan, you go to a form. I'm talking about an actual app for TTPS that you had before. I don't know if you're aware of it.
The app that we had before is no longer operational. Actually, we are now reviewing to get to implement another app.
So just to be clear, you see when you scan a QR code, it takes you to a form, and it's just a database. That's not an app. Right? It's just a database that you fill out, and then it'll be recorded accordingly. The app now will have several different information that even Minister Mitchell spoke about, Member Mitchell spoke about, in terms of giving the general public information for each division, what they're doing, how they could improve, how different strategies that's going on, maybe town meetings that's happening. For instance, we have a lot of tourists, and Michelle also is responsible for tourism. You know, like some of the tourists that come into our country, that they could then access the app, which most of them will be capable of having on their smartphones, those devices, and then they can feel a little more safer coming in the country and know what spots are, you know, they could be looked at, and what you all are doing to improve these security initiatives in this country. So I'm just asking what you have in terms of that. That's the technical side, especially for the public. There's also the second part of my question, where you use technology in your daily operation.
Okay, so Chair, I will invite my Deputy Commissioner, who has the responsibility for technology in the service, to respond.
Thank you, Chair. As it relates to digitization, we have embarked upon a process where we are moving from an analog stage to a digital stage. And so we have partnered with iGov and other entities to ensure that we move forward as an organization. One such process that we would have completed successfully already is the digitization process of applications for persons coming in as contract workers. We've already begun expanding it across our special reserve. They're going to start their training soon, and then the regular police. You were speaking in terms of persons making reports to the police. What we are doing on the back end of our existing website is to allow even for anonymous reporting, because the website currently in its current stage doesn't afford for that privilege. We are also doing a number of things as it relates to ICT. We have done a needs test as it relates to our organization and our needs. We have completed that recently. And so we would have also embarked upon procuring over 3,000 desktops and laptops, because we do realize that we need to change our existing assets. We have also embarked upon upgrading our servers and purchased a number of tools, data mining tools, for our intel departments. As it relates to training, we would have sent a number of officers in terms of both local and regional training, which includes but is not limited to cyber training. A list of those training courses, Chair, can be provided to you at a later date, because I know it is quite extensive. We have also created a number of policies to ensure the management of our data. We have in existence over 7 policies as it relates to ICT to ensure that data management is at the fore in the service. We're also currently working on our cyber policy to treat with breaches within our realm as an organization.
When it comes to the cyber breaches, and then, you know, we have been having a lot with different state agencies before, have you ever had any breach of your current database that you are aware of? And if not, are you working with the relevant agencies to strengthen and have also a secondary backup system? So it's not just you have one server, but it's also backed up somewhere else?
We have a number of servers, sir. We are also working with all of national security I'm not sure if you're aware, but national security on the whole is also working on a cyber policy and cyber plan, and we are also partner to that.
So all your divisions currently network on a one area network?
We actually use both intranet and internet.
So then there's a one
Yes.
system. And then coming back to GPS, and thank you for your thing.
Member Sukai, I'm looking at your time. I know you will
Yeah.
go forever into I-Tech and IT, but
Just two more that in terms of, well, one more in terms of GPS and how we're handling that, and if you don't mind, because it comes with the vehicles and how they, I know you were saying there are 8,000, about 8,000 units on something like that, right? Does all your vehicles have GPS monitoring right now, and are they monitored at a command center so that you can ensure that your response time or what is going on with these vehicles at any given time, is it been evaluated and monitored?
Thank you for the question. Presently, not all the vehicles has GPS. However,
Can you give a percentage?
about 72, let's say about 50% or so. Presently, we are putting things in place, however, to ensure that nearly all our vehicles
And is there a command center? Sorry to cut you in between, just to speed up
and the
process.
information goes directly to, we have a command center that is able to monitor all those that have GPS.
So when it comes back to CCTV cameras, and sorry to jump so quickly, just CCTV cameras concerning violent communities or communities that are, where you expect these levels of occurrences taking place. Are these communities well monitored in such a way so that it could avoid such occurrences?
And this one, with the geofencing that we are seeing, it will certainly be able to help so that we'll be able to monitor exactly what is happening and where the vehicles are.
Thank you, Chair.
now, Madam Commissioner, I'm concerned about the young people in Trinidad and Tobago and any perception or any reality in violence in schools. What strategies has the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service employed to proactively address early signs of violent behavior in young people in Trinidad and Tobago? Be specific, please.
Chair, may I defer the question to Deputy Commissioner Administration?
Deputy Commissioner Administration, which is Ms. Natasha George. Yes, please.
Chair, currently we have 81 active regular youth groups, 1 paramilitary youth group, 8 Hearts and Minds groups. Some of the initiatives that our groups have taken thus far for the year 2024 includes, but is not limited to, Conflict Resolution Center, which is situated in Northern Division. It's currently on its 2nd cycle, and 24 cases have been referred thus far. We've also done leadership workshops with some of our PYCs. We also have a suspension program. 65 new students have been referred to us for the year 2024. Our students also have taken part in the U.S. Open Netball Championship, peer resolution training, which the TTPS did pay for. The goal of that training was to reduce violence amongst youth, develop conflict resolution ambassadors, promote peace among families and communities. We also do the CHINS program, which is children in need of supervision. 77 such children were referred to us by the court for the year. And of course, I can't forget our mounted branch, who have continued to provide therapeutic riding for specially challenged children 4 days a week. And they also train our specially challenged children whenever they have to take part in the Special Olympics.
Madam, let me ask Member Munilal to ask a quick question. We're going one.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Instead of one big question, I'll ask 2 small questions. I just want to get back to this fundamental issue of building public confidence in the police, which is critical, and we all agree on that. This unit established at the beginning of July, the customer service unit, I believe. There was a unit established called, is it the customer service unit in July at the St. Joseph Police Station, was it? Just correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, we launched the customer service policy.
Okay, great.
The initiative. We
Right.
launched the initiative. Yes.
I just wanted to ask, how are you, as you go forward, measuring that work? Where are you starting from and where are you going? How do you measure the customer service team across the land in terms of what they are accomplishing? What is the sign of performance? That's one. And my second question is triggered on what Ms. George said earlier about the intervention strategy and so on. There's a serious matter, as we all agree, in the schools, with violence in the schools among children and young teenagers and so on. Is there specific intervention by the TTPS with the Ministry of Education, of course, in the school system?
Member Munilal, you are piggybacking on my question. What he's saying is maybe you did not, you know. I thought that was the very same question that was asked. So if that's the same answer you're giving me, answer the second question. Member Munilal, you did not fall asleep on me, did you? Go ahead, madam.
Chair, I can actually add a bit more to the response I gave before. Even with all that I have said as it relates to our interventions with children, I want to let the committee know that the TTPS also carries out homework centers throughout our PYCs. Just Friday, MOVA would have actually celebrated with their students the SCA result. Those would have gotten their SCA results. MOVA Police, who carries on their homework center actually from the police station, they would have had a celebration for their children. We also did public awareness seminars on child abuse. And of course, we have the Peace and Love football tournament that begins from this week.
Just one question at part A, B, and C.
One question.
The question is, well, they're related anyway. The question is under Objective 4.7, Commissioner, of the Violent Crime Reduction Plan entitled Building Police Legitimacy and Public Trust and Confidence. It follows from one of the questions that was asked earlier on regarding technology. And you would have had a successful incursion recently. And you reported earlier to us that kidnappings are down 100%, I think it is. And you up 100%, sorry, up 100% in terms of into. And you had a successful incursion with the kidnapping of the businesswoman Anisha Hussein Singh. And I saw a press conference with DCP Martin after about what would have happened in terms of the interface with the 4 people who did not make it out alive. Would there have been body cams on that exercise? Because body cams is one of the ways that helps to establish the police narrative compared to a public narrative sometimes that police may have overstepped, etc. That's part one. Part two, and it has to do also with public trust and confidence. With two, and this has to do with the public perception, Commissioner, about whether or not they choose to participate in helping the police or not, and a perception about police corruption at some level. And if you think the recent passage of whistleblower legislation on one hand, and in terms of the public using one of the agencies to report corrupt police or what they perceive to be corrupt police officers in engaged in corruption, and also how you view the recent passage of the bail bill in terms of police effectiveness, because I know there had been commentary from the police service that it demoralized some of the officers in the service who did a lot of work in identifying and apprehending and charging persons, only to see them back out to the streets. So those are the 3 parts of the questions. The first one is the body cams. Were there body cams on that St. Augustine exercise where the 4 suspects did not make it out alive?
Member, I am unable to say definitely whether they were wearing on that exercise, but what I can assure you is that officers are mandated to wear their body cams.
That's interesting, because I would have imagined that because of that mandate that you reported to us before, on an exercise that was planned because it was an ongoing investigation, high profile, that a report would have indicated by now whether or not officers had body cams, which would have also included evidence. It's very strange that we don't, you are saying to us as the commissioner that you are unsure if body cams were used in that exercise, seeing that 4 persons did not make it out alive, and it was a high-profile case. That's very curious. So you can't tell us now that body cams were used or not used in that exercise?
No, I'm not in a position to tell you now.
Is any of your team in a position to tell us?
Ms. Martin, are you in a position?
No, I'm not in a position at this time, sir.
Will you be able to supply that information to the committee?
Yes, we can. But what I can say is that we have limited body cams, and based on the kidnapping investigation, we had to collaborate with a lot of units coming together at different locations to get the job done. So everyone, the specialist section, may not have body cams, but we'll get back to you.
So you're unsure if, okay, the part 2 of the question is the issue of corruption in the police service, and that has been a big bugbear in terms of the public collaborating with the police and giving information because they're fearful for some sort of reprisal and that sort of stuff. Is the recent passage of the whistleblower legislation to you a step in the right direction in the public using other agencies identified in that as reporting agencies in terms of that issue with the police service?
Member, trust and confidence play a very important role in the police achieving its mandate. Any legislation that is passed that will assist the public in assist the police in gaining the trust and confidence of the public is appreciated.
Do you think whistleblower legislation specifically will help you in that regard in weeding out corrupt officers? It's a very direct question, Commissioner.
Yes, I believe so.
And the recent passage of the, thank you for that, the recent passage of the bail bill under particular conditions where the judicial officer has specific guidelines now, because I know in the past, one of the concerns some officers after to do a lot of great work, a lot of hard work, multiple offenders had been able to option bail, and it was a demoralizing element to the police service. Is that also now, as a tool in the hands of the system, going to assist you, in your opinion, in achieving your objectives?
Most definitely it will. Over the years, and if I may just give some statistics here. For 2024, we had 2,738 repeat offenders compared to, and we have 1,585 first-time offenders. The passage of the bail bill for us would more or less stymie the criminal elements who wouldn't really, the prisons itself would just be a revolving door.
And the issue of the Tunapuna, final question, your collaboration with the Tunapuna Business Association and the ability of the police service to engage the business community, because they are also targets of crime in the country, and it also affects the image of the country and their ability to do their business. Is that also, to you, something that the police is expanding into other areas, other divisions, and what are the timelines on that? How is that going, finally?
So let me advise the committee. Divisional commanders are mandated to hold meetings, regular meetings with the stakeholders in their division. So you have the business community being met with on a monthly basis.
Madam Commissioner, the question is the template of the collaboration with the Tunapuna business community. Is that going to be utilized, or is some sibling to that going to be utilized throughout the country? I think that's the nub of the question.
How is that going?
Like, for instance, in Woodbrook,
yes.
where the community, it cries out for a greater collaboration with the police. Are you going to use that sort of, you have a template in Tunapuna, is it going to be used throughout the country? And what is the time frame for that? That's the question.
Yes, it will be used. Before I, Chair, through you, ask DCP Benjamin to answer the question, yes, it will be used. The Tunapuna initiative, more or less, is already implemented within the other divisions.
Within some
But
of the divisions.
Mr. Benjamin would.
Deputy Commissioner Benjamin, could you elaborate? Now, time is against us, so could you be short because we still have some other ways to go?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, thus far, I can say for sure that the Eagle Eye, which is what is called in the Tunapuna station and came out of the station council and the business persons working together, has already been implemented in the Northeastern Division, the Central Division, and to some extent, the Western Division. And it is hopeful that it will continue to be replicated in the other divisions in time to come.
To Spain and Western, what about, I know for sure, because I checked, what about Port of Spain, Western, the entire of East Port of Spain? Are you going to, because there are businesses there and we need the police presence, we need the collaboration. Give us a time frame, officer.
Yes, and as I said, they have already started in the Northeastern Division, the Western Division, Central Division thus far. As I said, Port of Spain, we are hoping to start there, but those thus far has already started, and it's just a matter of time before it comes into a full implementation and completion of that, but it has started.
Ideal, and when you finish, Member Mullian, that's a very brief question to King. Then Member Webster Roy.
Thank you. One question that came to me from a member of the media, actually, says he got it from the public, and one other thing I wanted to ask for, could you provide the committee with a breakdown, as you mentioned, the anti-gang legislation from 2021, when the newest iteration was passed? Could you provide us with a breakdown of all the persons arrested, subsequently charged, and prosecuted for crimes under the Anti-Gang Act, and for what offenses specifically they have been charged for?
You requesting that in writing, yes?
Yes, in writing.
You do that in writing, Madam Commissioner? Yes?
And my question, which comes from, as I said, a member of the public, it deals with the issue of GPS, but also I think public trust and confidence. And they're saying that when you have rented police vehicles, the complaint coming from the public is that a lot of these vehicles are being used by officers not for covert operations but for personal use. They are being utilized even by relatives of police officers and so on. Do you think you have sufficient mechanisms in place to monitor the rental vehicles? Firstly, could you tell us how many rental vehicles on average the police would have? What units they are assigned to, and whether you think you have sufficient mechanisms in place, because they would not be outfitted in the same manner as, I assume, marked police vehicles. But do you think you have sufficient mechanisms in place to monitor the use of these vehicles, given that vehicles and access to vehicles and so on is, continues to be of a great public concern to the public, members of the public?
Remember, we have just implemented our vehicle management policy, and that is geared towards monitoring the use of all vehicles.
Some more details about that policy in terms of monitoring and so on?
Remember, it might be easier for me to provide you with a copy of the policy.
You hit the nail on the proverbial head, because we'd want a copy of your customer service policy and your vehicle management policy. And it may be that you may need to link with Member Sukai so that you can have these things disseminated. Remember Richards, who's in the media, so that the public can know about the things that the police service is doing. If we did not have this committee meeting this afternoon, I'm no member, Richards, I'm not going to any TV show. Would you not have said, how would we have known that, look, there's a customer service policy, there's a vehicle management policy. In other words, the police is actively pursuing some sort of management implementation of policies in Trinidad and Tobago. We need it, all right? Member Munilal, a very brief question.
Yes, Madam Commissioner. I just wanted a quick update. Some time ago, there was a major issue again in the public space about the CCTV cameras being erected in the vicinity of police stations, and they were illegally or unlawfully erected in that space. There was an investigation undertaken. I just wanted to know whether that has been completed and anyone has been charged in relation to whatever relevant criminal action has been committed.
Chair, through you, may I ask DCP Martin to respond, please?
Martin, would you be willing and able to respond?
Yes, sir.
Kindly do.
That investigation is ongoing at this time, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. Madam Commissioner, an objective of the Violent Crime Reduction Plan is the dismantling of criminal gangs. And I'm going to go to a question I was sent by a constituent.
Go on.
Okay. I'm going to say it exactly how it's written. How come in social media personalities could come in Trinidad and Tobago and identify gang leaders and gangs, and police can't? Came from a constituent.
No, well, I am sure it was translated properly. Who's going to answer that question, Madam Commissioner?
Our legal officer, Mr. Ali. I will direct the question.
Mr. Ali, we want a succinct answer to that.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Member, for the question. I'd like to respond by just indicating that regardless of who may have identified or caused the intelligence/evidence to be unveiled, what I can give as a matter of confidence and certainty that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has responded with reference to what we have seen. And I'm sure that is public knowledge. We have seen that we have issued media release where persons were charged who featured in those videos that were published on social media. And I want to assure the committee, through the chair, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago that we are continuing to pursue those videos because those videos, and again, most if not all have the opportunity, including the young ones, to see what was transpiring in those videos. So we have responded, and we will continue to respond. I don't know if that answers the member's question.
No, because the question is not what it's about. How come? Oh, Member Webster, I have you covered. The question is, right? Sorry, how did it come to be? That's the question coming from Tobago. So how come that someone, a foreign journalist, not Mr. Member Paul Richards, a journalist from abroad, could come and give us a list when the police service were not aware of what was going on? You understand? So how did it arise? So, Madam Commissioner, I want you maybe to tell us about that. How did it transpire? Officer Benjamin on operations, Deputy Commissioner Benjamin. How come?
Mr. Chair, may I ask that the DCP INI, if you don't mind, who has...
How come?
Has
go ahead.
The ideal answer, please.
Yes, go on.
Sir, we have the intelligence. Based on the Anti-Gang Act, we have to meet that evidential threshold.
Right.
Those gang members are being arrested and charged for various offenses, not necessarily under the Anti-Gang Act, but we have the information and we are working on it.
All right.
I would like to share with you as well, because we see a lot about technology, but technology aids investigations and it doesn't stand alone. Yes, we have the technology. Yes, we have CCTV. Yes, we have the footage. But we need persons to identify these persons on the footage. So I'm saying, yes, we have technology. It doesn't work alone. We still need persons to come forward and assist the police.
Member Webster Roy is inconsolable. Member Webster Roy, maybe I clumsied your question. You go ahead.
I think in my constituent asking how come they're trying to understand why it is that somebody could come from outside and engage these persons, find them, but our police can't find them, engage them, identify. I think that's what my constituent is asking.
Well,
How come?
Well, I am sure that the way the journalists could have engaged them will not be the way that the police would have engaged them. So that kind of gives a nuance. But I suspect what the question is trying to drive at is, why didn't the police do that first? And to say that there's the standard of proof has always been beyond reasonable doubt. The burden of proof has always been Wilmington and DPP. He who alleges must prove. So this is the third shot, but I just want to see if you all could give us if there's a rationale, if you are saying there was or is it that you were saying there was an ongoing investigation and it took time? I don't know. Say, you have one more chance to answer that question holistically.
So, as I said, that the investigations were ongoing. I said previous, we have the intelligence, but we are now actioning those intelligence to meet the evidential threshold of the anti-gang legislation.
Right. I just want to say to you, and I know you have your advisor there, Mr. Ali, unless I've gotten it wrong, the evidential, the standard of proof, be it the anti-gang legislation, remains beyond reasonable doubt. I say no more. Oh, and the burden remains, as Wilmington and DPP says, he who alleges must prove, and I say no more. Member Mitchell.
Thank you very kindly. Madam Commissioner, you know that the members of the police service are held or ought to be held to a higher standard of behavior in society. Have you all given any thought or consideration to the position of increasing the disciplinary consequences to members who fall below that standard, or members, as we're discussing here, who are found to have committed violent crime within the course of duty or outside the course of duty?
Thank you, Member. We are, in fact, reviewing and doing an audit of our disciplinary process. Included in that is a revision of the fines related to offenses. What we have also been doing, because officers, when they face the open court, sometimes they may be successful, they win their matter, and are required to come back into the service. We have now ensured that we have a disciplinary process along with the criminal process.
Understood. Go ahead, man.
So that was not the case before. I mean, it makes perfect sense because you, of course, as I said, you're required to perform at a specific standard, and that's to enjoy a continued employment with the police service. And criminal matters are separate. So you're now putting in place that system of criminal as well as
together, yes.
Member Mitchell, what the commissioner means is that they are now utilizing it because the police service regulations, regulation 6490, did allow for parallel. You are charged with a criminal matter, you can still be charged internally. What I think Member Mitchell wants to ask you also is this. Don't you think it's time now that you have a full-time cadre of officers to deal with disciplinary matters in a more timely manner than what exists now? So the matter is called and adjourned for a 3-month period, and we come back for one morning at the building at King's Court, and we go to another 6 months, I know because I'm involved, and then the officer retires and the charges remain unresolved. Don't you think the time has come now for a full-time cadre of officers, and it's only about 3 or 4 tribunals, so all you need is about 12, to deal with disciplinary matters so that when officers are charged, they know that their matters will be resolved in a timely way. Yes.
Yes, member. We already, that is already in place, member.
Yeah,
But we have our
just to-
complaints division that is responsible for the disciplining of officers and the conduct of tribunals.
Yeah, no, just to clarify, I understand that, but what I think the commissioner was saying, and Commissioner, you could correct me if I'm wrong, what she's saying is where there are officers who've fallen below the standard required, if they're charged with a criminal offense, that offense, of course, goes to the court, and that must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Instead of waiting until the resolution of that matter beyond a reasonable doubt, this parallel disciplinary process, which of course is at a different standard, what is the standard, remind me?
Be on a balance of probability.
On a balance of probability.
More likely than not.
That person can be dismissed on a balance of probabilities while the matter is still pending.
No, we will not dismiss while the matter is still pending.
Oh, but the matter will be dealt with. Because
Right.
so there'll be a finding, but the sanction, the ultimate sanction, may be reserved just in
Just
case.
in case.
That may be a wise decision, because if you had said that, Madam Commissioner, you're taking advice from Mr. Ali, but you are understanding the nuances. Member Sukai.
Chair, thank you. And Commissioner, as former member of the business community, especially in Central, I knew that you all worked together with Central Division and the business community and various stakeholders in terms of your rollout plan and some of the initiatives going forward. But and I know there was the creation of a data center for collection and monitoring within the Central Division. Is that still operational? And the second part of my question to that, right? Because I know what the template that my member referred to in Tunapuna, and I'm not too sure if Shogunas or Central Division and the others received exactly the same thing, or there's something, a different incarnation because of the different areas. But the second part to that piece of question, deals with the business community and where we have robberies of individuals leaving banks and institutions after withdrawals, right? That has seemed to be plaguing Trinidad and Tobago and our people for a very long time, where as soon as they do a withdrawal, they're followed to wherever is their business establishment or their homes, they're then accosted. And what is the TTPS doing about it? Are you working with the institutions, these institutions, to help curb these instances that going forward? Because as far as we can see, and from what social media is having, it's becoming far and far more rampant. Are we actively working it? And I'm not saying as you inherited this problem. This problem has been systemic for a very long time. What are we doing about it, though? Thank you.
So we are concerned about instances like this, and we are in fact working along with the institutions. There were a few instances where there were insiders or employees of the organization who would have been sharing information. So as an organization, we have been we have been made aware of this, and we have initiated within the divisions where they are prevalent, the commanders are engaging with the business establishments. Additionally, particularly around when month end, when pensioners are paid mid-month, when NIS is paid, we pay particular attention to the banking establishments.
Do you have any statistics saying what direction, if you don't mind asking?
Madam Commissioner, you will put it in writing if you have the statistics for the member. Yes. I gave everyone a time, and my other members, Member Sukai, are looking at me and saying, and I know you have another engagement, but could you ask the question and let the Commissioner undertake to put the response in writing, please? The statistics, would you put that in writing? So, that being said, We would want to thank Commissioner of Police, Ms. Erla Hayward Christopher. We want to thank Deputy Commissioner Operations, Mr. Junior Benjamin. Deputy Commissioner Administration, Ms. Natasha George. We want to thank Deputy Commissioner Intelligence, Ms. Suzette Martin. We'd want to thank Senior Superintendent CID, Mr. Rishi Singh, and Legal Officer, Special Investigations Unit, Mr. Zari Ali. Madam Commissioner, would you give us a brief closing remarks before I wrap this session up?
Chair, I would just want to take this opportunity to assure the general public, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, that the police service is committed to achieving its mandate and to restoring Trinidad and Tobago to a safe place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Commissioner and team, and I want to tell the listening public sometimes, members, we are rightly criticized, but this committee has worked, and I want to reiterate, we are during the vacation. Every member have come out to do the committee's work, and when we start back in September, we will be here to resume the committee's work. I wish you all safe travels, and we thank you on behalf of the committee, on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago, for coming before us today and answering the questions that have been posed. We now adjourn this public hearing at 4:21. We are 9 minutes ahead of time, Madam Commissioner, members, and we adjourn. Member Mitchell, you want your full hour and a half. You want your full 2.5 hours. He doesn't want his full 2, and we will adjourn the meeting to our next session in September. Thank you kindly.